had obtained the doctorate from Merton College, Oxford, as an historian. For some years, he was a reader in Jewish studies at Oxford. The post now occupied by Geezer Vermes. He was a prolific writer with more than 600 publications to his credit. He was also editor-in-chief of the Encyclopedia Judaica. He commanded enormous respect in the academic world and was recognized especially for his expertise in Judaic history. Godfrey Driver was a figure of comparable academic stature. He too had served with the British Army during the First World War, seeing action particularly in the Middle East. He too taught at Oxford at Magdalen College, becoming in 1938 Professor of Semitic Philology until 1960. He also did 3 stints as Professor of Hebrew. He was joint director of the team which translated the Old Testament for the New English Bible. As we have noted, he was John Allegro's mentor and recommended Allegro for the international team. From the very first discoveries of the Dead Sea Scrolls, Professor Driver had advocated caution about the early pre-Christian dates ascribed to them in a letter to the Times on 23rd August 1949. He warned that the pre-Christian date ascribed to the Qumran scrolls seems likely to win general acceptance before being subjected to critical examination. In the same letter he stated the external evidence for a pre-Christian date in extremely precarious, while all the internal evidence seems against it. Driver stressed the risks of attributing too much accuracy to what he called external evidence to archaeology and paleography. He advocated rather a scrutiny of the internal evidence, the content of the scrolls themselves. On the basis of such evidence, he was eventually to conclude that the scrolls dated from the 1st century of the Christian era. In the meantime, Cecil Roth had been conducting his own research and in 1958 published the results in a work entitled The Historical Background of the Dead Sea Scrolls. The historical background, he argued, was not pre-Christian, but on the contrary dated from the time of the revolt in Judea between AD 66 and 74. Like Driver, Roth insisted that the text of the scrolls themselves were a more accurate guide than archaeology or paleography. Availing himself of this guide, he developed a number of points that not only ran counter to the international team's consensus, but must also have outraged the Catholics among them, citing textual references in one of the scrolls For instance, he demonstrated that the invaders regarded as adversaries by the Qumran community could only be Romans, and further could only be Romans of the empire, of imperial rather than republican times. He also demonstrated that the militant nationalism and